It started with a noise. Not a dramatic crash or anything, just the quiet, rhythmic sound of a basketball thumping against the pavement outside my apartment window. One of those late September evenings when the air is still warm, but you can feel summer starting to pull back. I was halfway through microwaving some leftover Thai food when I realized the sound had been going on for a while. I lived on the third floor of a quiet complex. Most of the neighbors were older, retired, early-to-bed types, so hearing someone shooting hoops at nearly 9 p.m. stood out. I walked over to the window and pulled the curtain back just a little. That's when I saw him. He was alone, down by the half-sized court next to the parking lot. Black tank top, gray shorts, one earbud dangling out of his left ear. Tall, lean. The kind of guy you'd assume was a college athlete without needing to ask. His movements were fluid, like he wasn't thinking about them, like the ball was just a part of him. I stood there watching longer than I probably should have. Eventually, the microwave beeped behind me, and I jumped like I'd been caught doing something wrong. I didn't know it yet, but that was the first time I saw him. Micah. I wish I could say the next time we spoke was some kind of big meet cute. That I dropped my groceries in the parking lot and he helped me pick them up, our hands touching over a bag of apples. But no, that wasn't us. The second time I saw him, I was in the mailroom. I was bent over, unlocking my box, when I heard the door swing open behind me. "Hey," a voice said, casual, friendly. I turned and saw the guy from the basketball court. Up close, he looked even better. Light brown skin, warm eyes, jawline that could probably cut glass if it wanted to. He gave me a nod, like we'd met before, like I should have recognized him. I just nodded back. "Hey." He reached past me, opened his own box, 2 down from mine, and started flipping through some envelopes. "You're on the 3rd floor, right?" he asked, not looking up. I blinked. "Yeah, you?" "2nd. Just moved in last week." "Ah." That explained why I hadn't seen him before. "Cool, welcome." He glanced at me then, really looked. "Thanks. I'm Micah, by the way." I introduced myself, told him if he needed anything, trash pickup times, where the best takeout was he could just knock. He smiled. "Appreciate it." And that was it. I went back upstairs with a handful of junk mail and a weird flutter in my chest. Over the next few weeks, I saw him more often. In the elevator, out front grabbing food deliveries, always friendly, always calm, the kind of guy who somehow made everyone feel a little more at ease just by being there. Then, one Sunday afternoon, I was taking out the recycling and I saw him again. Shirtless this time, shooting hoops. I tried not to stare. Failed. He noticed. "You play?" he called out, holding the ball under one arm. I shrugged. "A little. In high school." He smiled. "Come shoot with me." I hesitated. I hadn't played in years. I was wearing sandals and a wrinkled t-shirt. But something about the way he said it made it impossible to say no. "All right, just for a few minutes." He tossed me the ball. I caught it, felt the old weight in my hands. He moved to the side, giving me space. I missed the shot, of course. He laughed. "Not bad." I rolled my eyes. "Liar." We played for half an hour. Nothing serious, just passing, shooting, talking between breaths. It felt easy, natural. At one point, I asked, "So what do you do?" He dribbled, then answered, "Construction, mostly residential builds." "You?" "Graphic design, freelance." He nodded. Like that made sense, like he already knew that about me. I don't remember how the conversation shifted, but at one point he said, "You don't talk much, huh?" I smirked. "You do enough for both of us." He grinned. "That's fair." When we finally stopped, sweaty and winded, he offered me water from a bottle in his bag. I took it without thinking. His fingerprints were still on the plastic. It wasn't much. But something shifted after that day. He started texting me. Little things at first. "You see this storm coming?" Or, "Want to grab food?" Then longer ones. Memes. Voice notes. One time he sent me a photo of a half-eaten sandwich with the caption, "This was supposed to be lunch, but it turned into regret." I started looking forward to his name lighting up my screen. Then came the night he knocked on my door. It was almost 10:30 p.m. I'd just gotten out of the shower, wearing old sweats and a t-shirt with a hole in the collar, when there was a knock at my door. Not a loud one. Just 2 quick raps. I froze for a second. No one ever knocked that late unless it was a delivery mistake or something was wrong. When I opened the door, Micah was standing there. Hoodie, shorts, flip-flops, hair slightly damp like he'd just gotten out of the shower too. "Hey," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You busy?" His tone wasn't casual. Not exactly serious either. Just uncertain. I shook my head. "No, what's up?" He hesitated. "Can I come in for a sec?" I stepped aside. He walked past me and stood in the middle of my living room, looking like he wasn't sure why he came. I shut the door. "Everything okay?" He nodded, then sat down on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees. "Yeah, I just didn't want to be alone tonight." That hit in a way I didn't expect. "You're always welcome here," I said quietly, sitting down on the other end. For a while, we just sat, no TV, no music. Just the quiet hum of the fridge and the sounds from outside. Someone's dog barking, a car driving past. Then he spoke. "You ever get hit with it out of nowhere? The loneliness?" I looked at him. His head was down, fingers laced between his knees. "Yeah," I said. "More than I like to admit." He nodded slowly, like that was the answer he expected. "I've been in this city for a month, and I already feel like I'm fading into it. Like I'm here, but not really." I didn't say anything right away. Then, "Why'd you move here?" He shrugged. "Fresh start. Family stuff got messy back home. I needed out." "Messy how?" He didn't answer for a while. Then, "My brother found out I slept together with a guy once. Lost his mind. Haven't talked since." I sat with that. "You only did it once?" I asked, trying to keep my tone easy. He glanced at me, a hint of a smile. "That's what you took from that?" I shrugged. "You brought it up." He laughed. Quiet, but real. "Yeah, only once. In college. It was a lot. Too much, maybe. But I never really stopped thinking about it." "About him?" "No," he said. "About what it meant, about me." That silence came back. The kind that wasn't awkward, but thick with things we weren't sure how to say yet. Eventually, I asked, "You ever tell anyone else?" He shook his head. "Just you." That made my heart do something weird. Micah looked over at me then. Really looked. His eyes were softer than usual. Less guarded. "You ever?" he started, then stopped. I waited. "You ever think about it?" he asked. "Like, what'd it be like with someone? A guy?" I felt my pulse in my ears. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I've thought about it." He nodded, then leaned back against the couch, head tilted up like he was trying to breathe through something. "This is probably a dumb question," he said. "Ask anyway." He turned to face me. His eyes were darker now, the room dim with only one lamp on. "Do you ever wonder if we're here right now because we're supposed to be?" I didn't answer. Because yeah, I had wondered that more than once. He looked at me for a long time, like he was waiting for a signal. And maybe I gave it, maybe with a look, or the way I didn't break eye contact. Because slowly, he reached out, fingers brushing mine where they rested between us. I didn't move away. He didn't grab my hand or anything, just let our fingers touch, barely. It was stupid how much I felt it. My breath caught. "You're shaking," he said softly. "So are you." He smiled then, this quiet, nervous thing. I don't know what I'm doing. Me neither. And that was okay. We stayed like that for a long time, sitting on a couch in a too-quiet apartment, fingers barely touching, hearts doing too much. Eventually, he shifted closer, not all the way, but enough that I could feel the heat off his leg against mine. "I should go," he said, even though he didn't move. You don't have to. He looked at me again, and I knew then we were standing at the edge of something, and neither of us wanted to be the first to fall. But maybe we didn't have to. I'm tired, he said, but I don't want to go back down there. You can crash here. Couch is yours. He gave a little nod, then leaned back. Thanks. I got him a blanket, a pillow. When I came back from brushing my teeth, he was already stretched out, hoodie off, his bare arms crossed over his chest. You good? I asked, turning off the last lamp. Better now, he said, and I believed him. I woke up to the smell of coffee. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. I never made coffee that early, and I lived alone. But when I sat up and heard the soft clink of a mug on the counter, it hit me. Micah stayed. I got out of bed quietly, pulled on a hoodie, and stepped into the hallway. He was in the kitchen, barefoot, still in his shorts from last night. The hoodie was back on, sleeves pushed up. He looked good in my space. Too good. He turned when he saw me, like he wasn't sure if he should still be here. Morning, he said, lifting the mug slightly. I didn't know how you'd take it, so I just made it black. I rubbed my eyes. Black's fine. He handed it over, fingers brushing mine. Neither of us said anything about it. We drank quietly at the kitchen island like this was something we did all the time. Like it wasn't strange that he'd spent the night, or that we'd had a moment on the couch where time stopped. Eventually I asked, You sleep okay? He nodded. Yeah. Better than I expected. There was a beat of silence. Then he said, Thanks again. For last night, I didn't realize how much I needed that. You can crash here whenever. I said, maybe a little too fast. He gave me a look. Not teasing, just seeing me. I might take you up on that. After he left that morning, something felt different in my apartment. The couch cushion still held the shape of him. There was a second coffee mug in the sink. His scent lingered faintly in the air, clean laundry and something warmer underneath. That night he texted me. Micah, thanks again for letting me crash. Me, anytime. Micah, I meant what I said. You made last night easier. I don't really let people in like that. Me, you don't have to explain. Micah, I kinda want to. Micah, you just make it easy to be honest. I stared at that message for a long time, because honesty wasn't something I was used to either. The next few weeks became something new. He started showing up more. Sometimes to shoot hoops, sometimes with leftover takeout, sometimes just to sit on my couch and talk about nothing. We didn't define it. We didn't have to. One Friday night, I was watching some mindless show on Netflix when there was another knock at the door. Same rhythm. Same timing. When I opened it, he was standing there holding a six-pack and wearing a look I couldn't quite read. You busy? Nope. He walked in like he belonged there. That night, he stayed late again. Not on the couch this time. We sat side by side, watching some stupid action movie. At some point, I leaned back, and he did too, shoulder against shoulder. It wasn't tense. It wasn't careful. It just happened. His head tilted, resting lightly against mine. I didn't move. When the credits rolled, neither of us reached for the remote. He spoke first. You know what sucks? He asked, voice low. What? I keep waiting for this to feel weird, but it never does. I looked at him. Does it need to? He turned toward me. We were close, closer than we'd been. His eyes searched mine, and I could feel the shift in the air again, that quiet hum of something coming. He didn't kiss me, but he reached out, slid his hand over mine, and didn't let go this time. And I didn't let him. He stayed again that night. Couch again. But this time I gave him one of my t-shirts to sleep in. It was too small on him. Looked too good. I tried not to notice. When I came out the next morning, he was sitting on the balcony, feet propped on the railing, drinking coffee, and watching the sunrise like he did it every day. You're up early, I said, stepping out beside him. He handed me a second mug. Didn't want to waste it. We sat in silence for a while, watching the sky change. Then he said something I wasn't ready for. I think I've been scared of this, of how easy it feels. I looked at him. He was still staring ahead. Back home, nothing felt easy. Everything was tense, like I had to hold my breath all the time. He turned to me then. I don't feel that here. With you, I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. But inside, something cracked open, because I felt it too. For a while, we lived in that strange, sweet middle ground. He still had his apartment downstairs. I still slept alone most nights. But the nights he stayed, those felt like a different version of reality. Warmer, slower, quieter. We'd share food, half-watch movies, fall asleep too close on the couch. I kept telling myself it wasn't anything serious. But that was a lie. We never talked about what we were doing. We never kissed. Not once. But something about the way he looked at me sometimes, like he was memorizing me, not just seeing me, it made it clear we weren't just friends playing video games and sharing takeout. One night, we sat on the floor of my apartment, backs against the couch, legs stretched out, both of us quietly sipping beers. A documentary played in the background, something about space travel, but I wasn't paying attention. Micah broke the silence first. You ever think maybe we were supposed to meet later in life? I glanced at him. Why? He shrugged. Because if I met you 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready. Ready for what? His eyes flicked to mine, and then back to the TV. This. I didn't know how to respond to that. Not because it wasn't honest, but because it was too honest. He continued, quieter now. Back then, I would have panicked, ran from it. You sure you're not doing that now? He smiled, but it was a tired one. Not with you. I don't know what changed after that night. Nothing, officially. But the air between us felt charged, like something had been said that couldn't be unsaid. The next weekend, he stayed over again. This time, we didn't make it to the couch. We sat on my bed, backs against the headboard, watching YouTube videos and talking about dumb things. How his high school haircut was a disaster. How I once broke a coffee table trying to do yoga. He was in a loose tee and boxers. I was in joggers, shirtless. At some point, he yawned and laid back. I did too. He turned toward me. You ever wonder what this looks like from the outside? Like two guys lying in bed? He laughed. Yeah. I looked at him. Probably confusing. Or obvious. He didn't say anything. Then, out of nowhere, he reached over and placed a hand on my chest. Flat and warm, just resting it there. I froze. Not in fear, but in that deep, breathless kind of way when you know something is happening and you don't want to scare it off. I feel calm when I'm here, he said softly. I didn't move, didn't speak. Just let him stay like that. His hand on my chest, his head sinking into the pillow, his body facing mine. We fell asleep like that. And in the morning, his hand was still there. A week later, I got home late from a work project, exhausted and hungry. I stepped into the apartment and froze. Micah was in the kitchen, cooking. I found the spare key under the mat, he said without looking up. Hope that's okay. I set my bag down slowly. You made dinner? He nodded. Kinda. It's just pasta and whatever was in your fridge. He glanced at me then, a little sheepish. I had a weird day, didn't want to be alone. Me neither, I said. That night, we sat across from each other, knees touching under the table, both eating out of the same pot with mismatched forks. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. After dinner, I started cleaning up. He grabbed a dish towel and helped dry. When I handed him a wet plate, our fingers touched. He didn't pull back. Neither did I. He looked up slowly, his face closer than I realized. The kitchen lights above made the brown in his eyes look gold. You ever think about kissing me? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed. Yeah, he blinked. How often? More than I should. There was a long silence. Then, finally, can I? I didn't answer. I just leaned in. And for the first time in weeks of sleeping shoulder to shoulder, hands brushing, heads resting close. He kissed me. It wasn't fast, it wasn't desperate. It was careful, like he wanted to get it right. Like this wasn't some closeness or accident, like it mattered. And it did. When we pulled back, he let out a breath that sounded like relief. "I've wanted to do that since the first night on the couch," he said. "Me too." We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. After that night, the kiss in the kitchen, things shifted. Not all at once. Not dramatically. There was no big conversation, no label, no "what are we now" moment. But the energy between us changed, became warmer, quieter, more intentional. He still had his place downstairs, but he was barely there. Most mornings, I'd wake up to the sound of him brushing his teeth in my bathroom. Some nights, I'd find him already asleep on my couch, hoodie draped over his eyes. He started leaving things, his charger, his socks, a hoodie that slowly became mine by default. We didn't talk about it, but it was happening. One night, we were watching a movie, something forgettable, background noise, and he slid closer, laid his head in my lap, just like that. No warning. He didn't say anything, didn't even look up. I rested my hand on his shoulder, thumb grazing the fabric of his shirt. His breathing slowed, his eyes fluttered shut. After a few minutes, he said without opening his eyes, "You're the only place I've ever felt safe." It hit me like a punch in the ribs. I didn't respond. I didn't know how. But my hand didn't stop moving. Slow, steady circles on his shoulder, like I could answer without words. And maybe I did. A few days later, I had a client deadline. I was stressed, scattered, barely slept. He made dinner without asking, cleaned up without a word. He even brought me coffee around midnight, quietly setting it on the desk next to me before disappearing again. When I finally finished, I found him asleep in my bed, on my side. I didn't move him, just crawled in behind him, slid my arm around his waist, and buried my face in his shoulder. He didn't wake up, but his hand found mine under the blanket, lacing our fingers together like it was muscle memory. And we stayed like that until morning. Then came the night that caught me off guard. We were both in bed, lights off, neither of us quite asleep. I was on my back, he was turned slightly toward me, hand resting lightly on my stomach. "You ever feel like you're waiting for the catch?" he asked. "What do you mean?" He shrugged against the pillow. "Like, this is too good, too easy, like something's coming to ruin it." I hesitated. "Yeah, sometimes." He was quiet for a while. Then, "I'm scared of messing this up." "You haven't," I said. "Not yet." That part stung a little. Not because he was wrong, but because I'd been thinking it too. I turned to face him. His face was inches from mine in the dark. "You're allowed to be scared," I said. "I am too. But you're not alone in this." He nodded slowly, then said something I hadn't expected. "I told my sister about you." That surprised me. He'd always been private, even with me. "What did you say?" He smiled slightly. "I said there's this guy upstairs who makes me feel like I can breathe again." My chest tightened. "What'd she say?" "She told me not to let go of that. We didn't define what we were. Still, but it stopped feeling undefined. It started feeling like something permanent. Or at least, real. We began doing small things that felt like a rhythm. Grocery runs together, brushing our teeth side by side, arguing over what to watch while we lay tangled under one blanket on the couch. He made fun of my playlist. I made fun of his complete inability to load a dishwasher properly. One Saturday, we took a day trip to the coast. Just the two of us. No agenda. Just water, sunlight, and each other. We walked the shoreline in hoodies and jeans, shoes in our hands, the cold sand between our toes. At one point, he reached for my hand, not like he was asking, like he was checking if it was still there. I squeezed it back. We sat on the rocks and watched the waves crash for an hour. At some point, his head leaned onto my shoulder, his hoodie brushing my cheek. I didn't think I'd ever have this. he said quietly. Me neither. I used to think it was a phase, that I could just ignore it, make it go away. And now? He looked up at me. Now I want to build my whole life around it. I didn't say anything for a long time, not because I was scared, but because I was already doing the same thing. It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day. I had just finished work, still sitting at my desk, rubbing the back of my neck. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Micah hadn't texted all day. He'd mentioned something the night before about a job site inspection running long, but it was past 7 and I hadn't heard a word. I tried not to spiral. I tried to tell myself he was just busy, tired, distracted. But some part of me, the scared part, started whispering that maybe he was slipping away. I was so deep in my head, I didn't hear the door open. He walked in quietly, dropped his keys in the bowl by the entry, and looked at me like I was the only thing in the room. "Hey," he said. I exhaled, tension bleeding out of my shoulders. "Long day?" I asked. He nodded, stepped over, and leaned down to kiss my forehead. Then he said it. "I told my mom." I blinked. "You did?" He nodded again, slower this time. "Yeah, I didn't plan to. It just happened." She asked if I was seeing anyone, and I told her I was. And then I told her it was a guy. I stood slowly, heart thudding. What'd she say? She cried, he admitted. Not because she was upset. She said she was proud, that she could hear it in my voice. How happy I was. I didn't know what to say. Then he added, "I've spent most of my life hiding who I am. But with you, I don't want to hide anymore." I stepped forward and pulled him into a hug. He didn't resist, just sank into me like he'd been holding his breath all day. We stood there for a long time, no words. Just that quiet, steady thing we'd built between us. The next weekend, he didn't go back to his apartment. He didn't say anything, didn't make a big deal out of it. He just stayed. Left a toothbrush in the bathroom, folded his hoodie over the back of the chair, started calling my place home without realizing it. One morning, I caught him folding my laundry. He didn't see me at first, just stood there, focused, folding a worn-out t-shirt I'd had for years. "You don't have to do that," I said from the doorway. He turned and smiled. "I know, but I want to." I watched him for a second. Then, quietly, I said, "I'm in love with you." It wasn't planned. It just slipped out, like it had been waiting in my throat for weeks. He froze for half a second, then looked up. "I know," he said. "I've known." He walked over and set the shirt down. "I didn't say it back yet," he added, because I was scared of what it meant. "But I've felt it. Since that first night on your couch." Then he kissed me, and when we pulled apart, he whispered, "I love you too." We didn't change overnight. We still had our quiet mornings, our dumb debates about which cereal was superior. He still hogged the blanket. I still left my shoes in the middle of the floor. But now there were moments, small ones, that said everything. The way he kissed me on the shoulder before leaving for work. The way he always waited to start dinner until I was home. The way he reached for my hand under the table when we were out with friends. We started talking about the future, not in big, dramatic terms, but in everyday stuff. Should we get a bigger bed? Could we take that road trip next spring? Do you think our place needs a dog? Little things, but they added up. And one night, lying in bed with his chest against my back, his arm wrapped tight around me, he said, half asleep, "I didn't know love felt like this." I smiled in the dark. "Me neither," I whispered. But now I did, and I never wanted to forget.